Abbott has gone forward with Stewart to the right, Lineker and Howes to the left. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Brilliant! That is schoolboy's own stuff. Oh, I bet even he can't believe it. Is there anything left from this man to surprise us? That was one of the finest free kicks that this stadium has ever seen.
Hello and welcome to episode 82 of Hitting the Bar, the football podcast. I'm Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
Before we get going, your trivia question, Geoff.
Quite simple question. What is the largest age gap between two managers whose teams are playing each other? So the largest age gap, and give you a bit of a clue, one of them happened a few weeks ago.
All right, we'll find out at the end of the show. Before that, well, we're coming towards the end of the season, so we've got a lot to get through, including an FA Cup final, not short of controversy as well. But before that, let's have a little look back at what happened during the week. The day this podcast went out last week, Arsenal beat Chelsea at Chelsea, making it a little bit tight in the top four.
Yeah, the problem for Tuchel is why did his players not score? They had most of the ball, but possession doesn't win you matches, putting the ball in the goal does. So the groundsman and Woolwich got away with it, got 3 points. I think that's fantastic because it means they'll keep him and he's useless. So I'm happy. I'm quite relaxed.
Yeah, I hate to see the Woolwich win anything, but actually that made it a little bit more interesting, and it did mean, as you say, their manager will stay. The big result during last week, before the weekend's games, was the second Man United game of the week, Manchester United 2, Liverpool 4.
Yeah, Liverpool were well worth it. They were far underway, the better side. Man United's goals were consolations. I thought Liverpool played very well, but that isn't really the story. The story is the team that the Solskjaer put out, and he seems to have created this narrative which all the journalists are buying into, that Manchester United are somehow victims of this, and oh God, they've got to play 3 games with only 2 days between each game. Well, Tottenham have done that with runs of 4 games and 5 games close together twice in the last year, and nobody's said a word about it. But because it's Manchester United, oh, this is terrible, and Solskjaer said it's unheard of. Well, it's not unheard of. It's happened twice in the last 12 months with Tottenham. So get over yourself. And just to put a few facts out there as well, why is it that Manchester United have got off scot-free without being punished for their fans rioting and for the fact that they allowed fans into the stadium, which caused the match to be postponed? Normally, not fulfilling a fixture is minimum 3 points deduction, and any club is responsible for the behaviour of their fans. And yet Manchester United are somehow the victims in all this. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yes, and you're not just saying that because it would make it more interesting and Man United could drop out the top 4. Yeah, that's right. They haven't been punished. And I think Solskjaer should be, under those circumstances, keeping his mouth shut and not trying to make excuses and highlight the whole situation. And also, you're right, yeah, Tottenham went through that kind of week twice this season, and even Jose Mourinho made less of it than Solskjaer has. All right, let's have a look at what else has been going on. Your favourite team for ridicule, Newcastle United, have suddenly become a football club.
Jongleurs FC became Newcastle United Football Club again in the last month. And as regular listeners will know, I'm no fan of Steve Bruce as a manager, but you have to say he's looking quite good. And Newcastle looked like a football team. And okay, they lost the match to City, but it was 4-3. Score 3 goals against City. I mean, that's they looked good. The puzzle in all of this is, why do Newcastle fans hate Bruce? Maybe the answer is because they think he's Mike Ashley's boy doing everything that he's told. Well, okay. But if you look at the positions, Steve Bruce is within 1 point of the points got by Benitez. And Benitez is the fans' favourite, but he's only got 1 point more than Steve Bruce. So for these Newcastle fans, everything bad that happens is Steve Bruce's fault, and everything good is got nothing to do with him. I mean, the guy is a decent manager.
And just to prove that, he won Manager of the Month for the month of April. Quite rightly so, because they had a great run, and then to this month to come away 3-4 losers against Man City, like you say, to score 3 against City. I don't know if anybody's done that, have they, this season?
I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say Leeds might have done, but no, you're right. And in the build-up to the match, they showed the stats of the last 5 matches. Last 5 matches for Newcastle, last 5 matches for City, and both of them had won 3 out of the last 5. And when Guardiola was saying, of course we're taking this seriously, they're a good team, the the interviewer was sort of suggesting that he was being patronising. He wasn't. Just look at the stats. Both teams playing in opposition that day had won 3 out of their last 5. They both went into it thinking this is an even game, we've got to win it. And the 4-3 tells the story.
Yeah, so we're going to have to give credit to Newcastle, because it is definitely due. Be interesting to see what happens with them next season, because their position is not great this season, but hopefully for them they'll kick on. Alright, then Saturday we had an FA Cup final, but also Premier League games. But let's start with the FA Cup final, not short of controversy and drama, and actually a bit of romance with the way it finished.
Yeah, I mean, like most people who were not Chelsea supporters, I think you think, oh, fantastic that Leicester won, and they're a lovely club, and that was shown at the end when the players went to find the owner to take him down and receive the cup. And that's phenomenal. How many other clubs could say that the players would go to find the owner to do it? I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And Tielemans' goal was, well, a goal to win any cup final. It's a goal you dream about when you're a boy playing football, that you're going to score a screamer to win the FA Cup final. That was Roy of the Rovers stuff. It was absolutely wonderful. But it should have been chalked off, because Perez did handle the ball immediately before the ball went to Tielemans, and it wasn't even referred to VAR. And the replay showed Perez's arm was away from his body, definitely hit his hand. How was that not given handball? And Chilwell got a perfectly good goal very late on, which was chalked off for offside. And one of those offside decisions where it depends how wide the line was that they drew for it, which completely ignores the laws of football. The law states very clearly that if there is any doubt, and there clearly was doubt there, then it should go in favour of the attacking team. So again, they rewrote the laws of football on the spot. And I think Wes Morgan was very, very thankful that happened, because actually it was an own goal, not Chilwell's goal. The game, I think, was there for Chelsea to win. They certainly had all the possession. They just didn't create enough chances. The scenes that we saw at the end were just absolutely wonderful, and I think most supporters of most other teams would think, oh, I wish it was like that at our club.
Yes, I mean, the result was what I think anybody but Chelsea fans wanted. Everybody wanted the small club, if you like, or the underdogs, certainly the club with the least budget, to win, and they did, but it was under controversial circumstances.
Yeah, I think it's the relevant point is the club that was not in the Big Six is the one that people wanted to win. The club that's won the Premier League title 5 years ago and now won the FA Cup and not invited into the Big Six.
Yes, and as you say, the owner, taking over from his father after that tragic helicopter crash, clearly loving it in a way that you don't expect an owner to react, as in he was loving it as a fan, and you really felt that he was part, as you say, the players actually dragged him from the stands, but he was hugging Brendan Rodgers, but hugging him closely. It was a real hug. It wasn't for the cameras. He was hugging all the players, and then there's lovely pictures of him hugging and kissing the FA Cup like it was for him a sporting achievement. It wasn't, I bought this club, I'm taking X amount of money out. He fulfilled some sort of destiny for himself and possibly, for his father. I think that was important. But you do feel that Leicester and their owners have created a culture that the rest of us can only envy.
They have a family culture. It's a family there.
Yes, I think for that reason everybody was delighted to see Leicester win. Sadly, it was possibly not correct, as in VAR and the handball and everything. And yet, I'm happy about it, and I'm very pleased. No scenes with the owner kind of made everything just right. It was brilliant. As I say, not part of the Big Six and all that. It's an amazing thing that the Leicester owners have done there with such a limited budget. But Brendan Rodgers has done something incredible.
Yeah, we're back to Brendan, and all the jokes, and I make them as well, that Brendan Rodgers is nearly as good as he thinks he is. But there's been some lovely comment about Rodgers over the last week, and before the FA Cup there was a very good article which posited a quiz. Which of these stories about Brendan Rodgers is true? Story A: when he was a youth team coach at Chelsea, he once tried to cheer up an out-of-form John Terry by commissioning a bespoke motivational poem, which he then had framed. Or story B: when his Swansea side won promotion to the Premier League, he celebrated by going off to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with Chris Kamara. Chris Samara couldn't work out where the mountain was. Was it behind me? Story C: when he meets young players for the first time, he draws them a little stick figure with a crown on its head in order to illustrate that they are kings of their own destiny. And so which of those is true?
I don't know, they all sound so fanciful.
Well, actually they're all true. This is the legend of Rodgers, the people person, friend to the stars, all-round wit. For some, this sort of stuff renders him ripe for ridicule, and yet, let's look at the evidence. A visibly moved John Terry Terry scored in his next Chelsea game and dedicated the goal to Rodgers. The Kilimanjaro jaunt was a long-standing charity commitment, raising £400,000 in the fight against cancer, the disease to which he lost both his parents. And when your record of youth development includes Raheem Sterling, Philippe Coutinho, Kieran Tierney, Harvey Barnes and James Maddison, perhaps it's fair to say that his methods have some merit.
Yeah, I mean, we have ridiculed, we have used Brendan Rodgers as a butt of jokes, and I'm sure he's big enough and strong enough to take it, and also successful enough for us to be the petty ones in the argument. But that just goes to prove that all the weird things that he does, like the stick figure and the poem, may sound weird to us, but actually he knows what he's doing, and it works. And who are we to say that it's ridiculous? So, I mean, you've got to give big props to Brendan Rodgers. He's taken them, they've been in the top four all season, they've won an FA Cup, they're most likely, probably going to get Champions League football next season, and on a budget that is absolutely incredible.
All of that success is down to his quality as a coach and how he sorts his team out and puts them there. They have a history of selling their best or most valuable players over the last few years, but he keeps coming up with great signings as well. And, you know, Ndidi and Tielemans are two of them, so fair play to him.
Yeah, I think we'll end that section with fair play to Brendan Rodgers. Well done to Leicester and their owners, who I think, you know, those of us that have a Levy or a Kroenke or a Glazier as their owner can only stand in awe and envy at. There were Premier League games that very same day, which we find a little bit odd, with the FA Cup being the oldest trophy in the world and all that kind of thing. It seemed wrong. But however, Leeds United, having beaten Tottenham the previous week, then went on to stick 4 past Burnley away.
Yeah, Bielsa's train keeps on running, doesn't it? You never know what you're going to get from them. They play the same way every week. They do the same things. Sometimes they score a lot of goals and sometimes they ship a lot of goals. This was a very, very good performance. But you did have the feeling that Burnley, knowing they're safe, were not at 100%. And
I think that the next game, Southampton 3, Fulham 1. Well, you know, good for Southampton, finishing the season strongly. Fulham already down. Not a lot we can say about that. So we move on to one that we can have a lot to say about. Brighton 1, West Ham 1. For me, that was almost a must-win game for West Ham.
It was a must-win game, and it's one that West Ham should have won. West Ham didn't create nearly enough chances. Declan Rice was back and looked just magnificent for 65 minutes, but his lack of match fitness counted against him in the last 20. Yeah, it is what it is. West Ham should have won, and they didn't. And I think that will be the story of the end of the season, because with 5 games remaining, West Ham had by far the easiest running of anybody.
Yeah, but your nearest rivals, Liverpool, Tottenham and Everton, we have got much stronger run-ins, much more difficult run-ins. So I would say you kind of blew it there a little bit, especially since Tottenham then went on to beat Wolves 2-0. Now, I know we could say it's only Wolves, but they are a tough team to beat. I know they weren't playing with a striker and that kind of thing, but having watched Tottenham throughout this season, the ups and the downs, I think that's one of the best performances I've seen from Tottenham in a long while. They played as a team. And I think the standouts for me were Gareth Bale, who had an excellent, solid game, and Dele Alli, who was exceptional.
Yeah, Dele Alli was really good. He had a very, very good game. He was man of the match. And as a result of that performance from him, suddenly people are saying, oh, maybe he should get into the team for the Euros. Personally, I don't know. If you have one spare place, yes. But if you put him in, then you are saying that he will definitely play. Otherwise, there's no point in it. Personally, I'm not convinced, because I think England are blessed with attacking midfield players, and I think he's not at the front of the queue, but he certainly played extremely well. It was the old Dele Alli was back, definitely. The question for Tottenham is, yes, they played extremely well, and they did what we've been saying on here for forever, for 80 odd episodes, is when Tottenham actually inject some pace in the game and get the ball forward fast, they look very good. It's only this Mourinho stop, turn round, pass the ball backwards, park the bus crap that has cost you. And with the possibility that Kane will win the Golden Boot, Son will be second, and they will also be first and second in the assists table, you'd have to ask, where's it gone wrong for Tottenham?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah, I mean, they could have 2 of our players up there in the goals and assists, as you say, and yet Tottenham could finish 6th, 7th or 8th. We are 2 games away from the end of the season as we record this. I think one of the things that stood out from that game, Reguilon, who is a defender, spends a little bit too much time attacking, but he is superb on the wing, and he he made that goal by perseverance and strength. And that is something that's been missing from Tottenham, is that desire. And he wouldn't stop, and he won the ball back and cut it back. And Højbjerg actually got the rebound from Gareth Bale's hitting the bar. And Højbjerg has played every minute of every Premier League game, can you believe? Every single minute. Nobody else has for Tottenham. And possibly inconsistency at the back and topping and changing hasn't helped. But it is that playing as a team instead of a defensive zone, a midfield zone and an attacking zone, and never the three shall meet, has been the problem.
Yeah, the thing about Højbjerg in that match was it's probably the first time we've seen over the course of the whole match the Højbjerg that Pep Guardiola was so in love with at Bayern, and that, you know, when he was very, very young lad, and Guardiola was thrilled to be able to get him in his team. And unfortunately Højbjerg then had a succession of terrible injuries which have really affected his career, but all of a sudden he looked like the complete midfield player that everyone thought he was going to be when he was 18. I started to worry when I saw him near the edge of the area. I thought he'd get altitude sickness and pass out, but actually he kept his head for that rebound. It slotted it in brilliantly. It was a lovely goal.
Ryan Mason, who tactically, of course, and experience-wise, has nothing as a manager, but he does give very good press interviews, and he's very non-committal about things, very diplomatic about things. But he was asked about Højbjerg's goal, and he said, yeah, I was delighted, of course, you know, to get the second. He also did say, which I agree, really, we should have got 3 or 4 in that game. He said, I did ask him afterwards what he thought he was doing that far up the pitch. What was he doing in the 6-yard area? He also said, Ryan Mason, which I thought was quite funny, and maybe, you know, a problem for a manager. He said, you know, they said Harry Kane has been on a goal drought. He hasn't scored for 3 games, and he got a goal finally, and it was his first goal under Ryan Mason. And Ryan Mason said, yeah, the thing is, Harry's my best mate, which is a bit of a problem possibly when you're the manager. He said, and I had said to him previously, I'm only in charge of this team for 7 games. I'll be very disappointed if you don't score at least once, so at least we've broken that duck. So obviously Ryan Mason delighted. He's admitting, of course, that he won't be manager. He knows that. Going back to Dele Alli just quickly, because he was interviewed after the game, I don't think he expects even to be considered for the Euros, because he was talking about next season, and he was asked by Tottenham TV, if we finish this season strongly, that gives us something to go and carry on into next season, have a strong start. And he said, yes, a lot of the players will be going away for the Euros, and when they come back, and he was talking about other people and certainly not including himself.
It's possible that Southgate will have this wild card selection, and Chris has just said Southgate was there watching the match. Maybe Southgate was there watching the match because he'll be the next Tottenham manager.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want that, but at the moment, the way things are, I just want a manager. I just want a manager to be decided. I understand that they're taking their time over it, and maybe that's a good thing, but I think it would be important to have a manager in place before the Euros start, so that the manager has time to think of who he wants to get rid of, because there are a few that need getting rid of, who he wants to bring in, what he's going to do about Gareth Bale, what's going to happen with Harry Kane, who's going to replace him, and have a proper pre-season with them. And the longer it goes on, the less time he has for any of those issues.
Whoever the next manager will know, and that is, one, he isn't going to have Harry Kane, because Tottenham need the money very, very badly, so they will accept any decent offer for him, and won't have Gareth Bale either, because they can't afford to pay him. So those 2 things we know. Will Dele Alli go and join Pochettino at Paris Saint-Germain? Possible. I would think personally more probable than possible. Not sorting out the manager, I think, is a huge problem for them. And who will they get? And I think maybe Levy is sort of looking at the top table, and I don't think those managers would be interested in Tottenham at the moment.
This is the problem. They could keep talking about a short list, but it's getting shorter because there are less people available that are up to the job, and the few people that are left on it really are either inexperienced or I don't think up to the job. So who's left?
Yeah, I think Tottenham are in the position that the Woolwich were in a season or so before when they were trying to replace Emery. Ancelotti turned them down for 2 reasons. One, he wasn't going to get enough money to sort the squad out, and 2, he didn't want the interference from the idiots that are currently running the club and proving Ancelotti to be 100% correct. They are idiots. They know nothing. They're ruining the club, and he was right to turn it down. I think those factors will play into the mind of any manager that is sort of top table. The only one I can think of that might take it anyway would be Allegri. who's been out of work for 2 years and nobody's come in for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason for that, which could be, I don't know, dodgy, or could be an issue at least. And having been out of work, he may have missed a lot of progress, a lot of changes in the game, practical sort of day-to-day feelings about the game. Of all the ones that are left in the running, I think he'd probably be the go-to choice for me now, because Graham Potter, love his football, but I don't think he's ready to repeat that at a club as big as Tottenham. Who else is there? Eddie Howe, they reckon got the Celtic job. There's also Simone Inzaghi, who's also a candidate. We know not enough about, I suppose, to say yay or nay, but he's a fairly big name with some success story to him.
Yeah, and he'll be swapping Lazio for Tottenham, so clubs of the same sort of size, and they'll both miss out on Champions League, so it's possible. I don't think Simone Inzaghi is a top table manager yet, but he's certainly a very promising one and a good one. I think the pitch against Allegri is okay. He won those at least five Serie A titles with Juventus, but he followed on from Conte. Juventus hadn't won for 7 years, then Conte came in, won Serie A 3 years in a row, and all Allegri did was take over that side and continue when Milan, Inter, and in fact everyone else in Serie A was badly struggling and couldn't put a fight together. So Conte went back to Inter. They haven't won it for 11 years, and they win it this season. So it's that counts against Allegri, because everyone is reminded, oh yeah, it was Conte that was responsible for those 9 trophies in a row. Yeah, Inter actually have done incredibly well this season. Fantastic performance. Until they brought Arturo Vidal in, no one in their squad had ever won a championship in a top 5 league, and they've won it comfortably. It's been a fantastic performance. So if Tottenham could get hold of Conte, that would be an amazing decision. But I think they'll probably be left with the people who want to get to the top table but are not sitting at it.
Yes, there is still talk of Conte being on the list, although he, is still in situ and having won, so much. Why would he leave? But on the other hand, people want challenges, don't they? And maybe he's not happy with the hierarchy where he is. So I welcome him with open arms, even though he's ex-Chelsea manager who won the Premier League. Yeah, so he can be forgiven. And if you're looking at either Scott Parker or ex-Chelsea manager Conte, you can please give me Conte every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So that's a saga that will continue. The other game on Sunday, apart from what I thought was a very comfortable and reassuring for me as a Tottenham fan, win by Tottenham. Sadly, it is a team, as you say, that those players that were there probably won't be there next season. However, the other big game was full of controversy. And controversially, maybe, we are saying, and I think we both believe, there was credible evidence of bias towards Liverpool. West Bromwich Albion 1, Liverpool 2. Both of Liverpool's goals coming from very, very bad refereeing decisions.
Well, one of them is an absolutely unbelievable decision. With the dictionary definition of unbelievable, something that was impossible to believe had just happened. The referee, again, rewrote the laws of football. When I think it was Fabinho, went close to the referee and brushed past him, and then afterwards, about 2 yards afterwards, lost possession of the ball, the referee gave him a free kick. There is nowhere in the laws that allows the referee to give Fabinho a free kick for that. If he had got in the way of Fabinho and changed the trajectory of the ball or caused Fabinho to lose the ball, then he can give a drop ball. But there is nothing in the laws of football that allow him to give a free kick. It was an absolute disgrace. And it's not the first time this season that referees have rewritten the laws. Balbuena's sending off for West Ham was one. Apparently now you can kick the ball and be sent off for kicking the ball. And now it's a free kick offence if you brush past the back of the referee. It was a disgrace. And that led directly to Liverpool's goal. And they took the free kick quickly. Now, in that situation, if it had been an indirect free kick offence, then the referee should have allowed the defence to reset themselves. And he didn't. They took a quick free kick from 5 yards in front of where the offence took place, and Liverpool just went up and scored.
Yeah, my understanding of the rule is if, for example, I don't know, Fabinho passed the ball to Salah and it had gone between the referee's legs and gone back to a West Brom player, the referee should stop the game and award an indirect free kick. But actually what Fabinho did was just try and push the referee out the way and then kicked the ball and lost possession. So it not being West Brom's fault, because in the case of it hitting the referee, that's not West Brom's fault. So in any circumstance like that, the opposing team should be allowed time to regroup because they didn't commit an offence, they didn't commit the foul, so they should be allowed all the time in the world to regroup before the kick was taken. It was taken before any of the West Brom players even knew why it was being taken, and they went on and scored directly through Mo Salah. The second goal that won Liverpool the game, and possibly will be the goal that gets them into the top four, was, for me, too double-edged, really, because in one way it was brilliant because it was a goalkeeper that scored it, with one of the most powerful headers you'll see this season. The other thing was there was 4 minutes added on after the 90. In the 95th minute, 95 minutes and 16 seconds, Alisson scores. They didn't get awarded the corner that it came from until after 94 minutes.
Yeah, and we were joking. We watched it in our bar here, and we were joking that the referee would give Liverpool 5 minutes or as long as it took them to score. He then booked the West Brom goalkeeper Johnston for time wasting, but that was before he announced the amount of time to be added on. That was during the 90 minutes before he'd announced the injury time. And I was watching it to see there was no break in play, there was no stoppage in play, nobody went down injured, no substitutions, there was no time wasting by West Brom, and as you say, it was in the 5th minute. Where did he get 1 minute from? Where did he get 25% of that time? 25% of that time added on afterwards. He was very clearly playing long enough for Liverpool to score. The header was fantastic. It was reminded me of Dennis Law diving one way, heading back the other, and he really bent his neck round. It was a perfect header. It was fantastic. But where did that extra minute and a half come from? A minute and a half in 4 minutes. It's an absolute disgrace, and nobody's mentioning it.
Yes, it's fun. I mean, all the emphasis or attention has been on Alisson's scoring, and he was very emotional about it, talking about his father and everything, and it was a beautiful story, which did detract or deflect attention away from the fact that it shouldn't have happened. The whistle should have gone 76 seconds before that, and so really it looked like Liverpool were being gifted that. Had West Bromwich Albion not already been relegated, and that would have been the game that relegated them, that would have been an absolute travesty.
It still is a travesty because it's had a material impact on Chelsea, Leicester and West Ham. So it's just it's just a shocking disgrace. The combination of giving a free kick where there is nothing in the laws that allows the referee to give a free kick for that, to give that, and then to play 76 seconds extra to give Liverpool time to score is an absolute disgrace. Mike Riley and I'll repeat this, the limited company that runs referees for the Premier League, in other words, it's a profit-making organisation, the referees PGMOL, he's just rewriting the rules of the game as he goes along. It's an absolute disgrace.
I think we both agree, and we are surprised that it hasn't been mentioned more in the press, that there did seem to me clear intent to help Liverpool to win that game, and I feel very sorry for West Bromwich Albion, who put up a great display and actually went 1-0 ahead, and also West Brom had a goal disallowed, which would have put them 2-1 ahead. So I think all in all, West Brom were screwed, and they were robbed of a very credible and honest 3 points, and I think Liverpool's 3 points were completely dishonest and were gifted them by the referee, who was none other than Mike Dean. What a surprise. High time for him to retire, Geoff.
Well, he is only 7 years older than the age limit for Premier League referees, so maybe it is time, yeah.
Another game that was actually had some great interest, despite the fact it featured a relegated team, but it did feature a team that is competing with West Ham and Tottenham for a European place, Everton, who lost 1-0 at home to Sheffield United, and for us who support competing teams, before that game we would have thought, well, that's another 3 points to Everton, and yet 17-year-old and 300 days Jebison scores the only goal for United.
17-year-old Jebison scores the only goal on his debut for Sheffield United, yes. Dortmund have been after him all season, and Sheffield United have been kept refusing to sell him. He scored 23 goals in 25 matches for their under-23 side. Maybe a Premier League club will sign him next season. Maybe West Ham, because West Ham need a centre forward very badly, and this lad looks the real deal. Every movement he makes, every time he receives the ball, how he receives it, how he lays it off, he's the real deal. He's a very, very good player. The questions about Everton continue. They've only won 5 times at home this season. 5 times. That is a Premier League record for the fewest number of games won in a season at home.
Yeah, just a side note to Daniel Jebison. Earlier this season he was on loan from Sheffield United at Northern League Chorley. What a story. What a story, and I definitely one to watch.
Yeah, just like who had heard of Jamie Vardy when he was playing non-league football. And there was Jamie Vardy in the the FA Cup final, having played in, I think he's the first player to play in every single round of the FA Cup and win it. I mean, it's a phenomenal story, and he's an amazing, amazing player. And he should be part of Southgate's Euro squad, because if there's an injury to Kane, he's the natural replacement.
Yeah, I mean, Vardy did retire, didn't he? So it would be nice to have him there as backup, definitely. The other game on Sunday, which we can just briefly mention, because it was a 5-goal thriller. Crystal Palace 3, Aston Villa 2. Benteke scoring. I know he scored for about 4 weeks in a row, but every week you say he's rubbish, but previously to those 4 weeks, he probably hadn't scored for 14.
A lot longer than that, actually. Yeah, there were centre-halves who scored more goals than Benteke in the last 2 seasons. Well, quite a few of them, actually. No, Benteke is not. He's not a Premier League centre-forward. But he got the goal, and Palace did that thing that they do every season. Towards the end of the season, they come up with some great results. The problem they've got is their manager is out of contract, and since he hasn't been offered a new contract, they obviously want him to go. But Palace also have 15 players out of contract this summer, and the bad news for them is all their best players are over 30 years old. So there's a huge rebuilding job at Crystal Palace to do, and like nearly every other Premier League club, they've got no money. So how they do it is going to be interesting to watch.
Away from the English Premier League, there's been some interesting things happening over in Germany.
Yeah, the thing which made all of the headlines over here was Robert Lewandowski equaling Gerd Muller's tally of 40 league goals in a season. And when he scored the goal, he lifted his shirt up, and underneath was a T-shirt with a printed picture of Gerd Muller, the bomber. He paid tribute to him, which I thought was class. That was really, really good. The second thing of real interest in Germany was that Dortmund won the German Cup, and they also made it into the top 4, so they will definitely play Champions League football next season, which means that Haaland is going nowhere. So even if someone can come up with the money, Dortmund can keep him. And actually, I think for Haaland, that will be his best choice. Dortmund, 2 months ago, were a long way away from the Champions League positions and looking as if they didn't know how they were going to get there. They sacked their manager, put the one of the coaches, the interim in, who was actually the assistant coach to Slaven Bilic at West Ham, but a lifelong Dortmund fan. There's lots of pictures of him standing in the wall cheering Dortmund goals and matches. The difference in the team is Jadon Sancho. Dortmund looked very bad when Sanchez was injured, and he's been injured for a lot this season. He's come back, and he's the difference. He is the best English player playing at the moment, without a question. He got 2 goals in the cup final. Could have got a hat-trick, but he dallied on the ball, and it got away from him. But he has been the difference in that team. When he was out, they struggled to win. He comes back, and they've been on a run that's guaranteed Champions League football next season. Jadon Sancho. Will Southgate pick him? Southgate has made it very plain that he doesn't like Sancho, doesn't want to pick him, because on the occasions when he does, he plays him out of position, so he can then turn around and say, see, he's no good. He is, without question, the best English player currently playing. Last season, he got as many goals as Raheem Sterling and as many assists as De Bruyne in one season in one player. So you basically have an extra player on the pitch, effectively. He's absolutely fantastic.
And never mind Jamie Vardy, he has definitely got to be on Gareth Southgate's list for the Euros. News from Spain, Barcelona are going to finish 3rd. I don't think they can even challenge for 2nd. So it's all very tight at the top.
Yes, and what an irony. What an irony, because Atletico look as if they could and should win La Liga this season. And why will that be? Well, it will all be down to, but a large part of that is down to Saurez, whom Barcelona decided was not good enough for them. They paid him to leave, so Atletico didn't have to pay a transfer sum. He was paid to leave, and he scored the goals that are taking Atletico to the brink of winning La Liga, and he's been fantastic. And the goal this weekend that took them there very, very late in the game, it was a typical Atletico performance, trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, but Saurez doesn't play by those rules, and it looks like they're going to make it. Their best player this season has been Kieran Trippier. Simone thinks he's absolutely wonderful, and he is. He's been the best English right back in Europe all season long, but he's another one who Southgate doesn't like and won't pick. He was absolutely fantastic. He's made that goal probably 20 times this season. That movement and that pass into that place in the penalty area he's superb, and he's a better tackler than any of the other right backs that we have, as well as being as good an attacker as TA squared of Liverpool.
Yeah, with Trippier, it's very much in the case of Tottenham, a case of seller's remorse. I think there's many, and I've seen discussions on Tottenham fan pages on Facebook talking about who we're going to get next season. A lot of people saying if only we could get Trippier back, because we do have problems in those positions.
Yeah, I mean, the thing we haven't mentioned yet, which has happened since we've been off the air, as City have been confirmed as winners of the Premier League. City, who were 13th in mid-November, and who the Manchester United's director of football, Darren Fletcher, he wrote this on the BBC website. There are profound systemic problems at City, pointing out, quote, Pep, mate, no offence, you'll never get by without a proper number 9. Just to remind you, this is Manchester United's director of football writing on the BBC. Manchester City will never get anywhere without a proper number 9. And he seemed unconvinced that the signing of the Benfica defender Ruben Diaz would be enough to turn the defence around. Diaz might be the player of the season. I mean, he's got to be up there with Harry Kane as player of the season. So that really shows you what Manchester United's director of football knows. Since that time, City have gone on a run and been absolutely incredible. Guardiola has completely reshaped the team, playing a completely different set of tactic than he did before. He's given up the high energy, high press, and he's sat back a little more, guarded the places behind the fullbacks. He's taken the time to completely remodel his side without a centre forward. Gundogan, the attacking midfield player, is their highest scorer. So next time you hear Darren Fletcher talking, you'll understand.
Pinch of salt and all that with him. Right, let's move on to what's going to be happening this last week of the Premier League. Let's move on to our predictions. Now, as we're recording this, it is a Tuesday afternoon, and there are Premier League games tonight and tomorrow, early evening and evening, when this podcast comes out. So all the games will have either taken place or being played. So we're going to move straight to the final games of the season. All 10 games being played on Sunday at 3 o'clock UK kickoff time. So it is final day of the season. We don't know what's happened in the last few days, so we're going to go blind into these. Arsenal against Brighton. Come on, you seagulls.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 1-1.
I'd very much like that. Aston Villa against Chelsea. Grealish is back, but probably not fully fit. It's going to be a Chelsea win, hasn't it?
Well, it should be a Chelsea win, but I also think Tuchel is going to have smacked some heads behind the scenes, and it will be a Chelsea win.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Fulham against Newcastle.
I think it will be 2-0 to Newcastle.
And Leeds United against West Brom. Chance for Leeds to get some more points on the board.
Yeah, but it is Leeds we're talking about, and they've had a couple of good wins, so they're due a bad loss. So I'll go for something like 3-1 to West Brom.
Cool. Leicester City against Tottenham. Very important game. Bearing in mind what we don't know is what's happened over the last few days.
That has 1-1 written all over it for me. As soon as you said it, I thought 1-1, and I think it will be.
Liverpool against Crystal Palace. Another big game.
Yeah, Liverpool fans don't like this match very much, do they? It's not worked well for them in the past. I think a draw. Yeah, 1-1 draw.
That would make it very interesting in the conclusion to the top four. Man City, the champions, against Everton, who, as you said, are better away than they are at home.
The only question mark about this team is what team does Guardiola put out, bearing in mind the Champions League final? It's coming up. Even City's second team should be enough to win that 2-0.
A game that probably doesn't have any bearing on anything anymore. Sheffield United against Burnley.
I'll go for another Sheffield United win, I think, 2-1.
And then your team, West Ham against Southampton, must win.
Yeah, it's a must win, 2-0 to West Ham.
And finally, although they're all playing at the same time, but finally for our prediction, Wolves against Man United.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves appear to have given up completely. Their last few games, they've been quite shocking. So it'll be, I don't know, 3-1 to Man United.
And then we will know what has happened, who's got into Europe, who hasn't. Just quickly, Geoff, where do you think West Ham will finish this season?
At the start of the season, on the radio show that we do for Global, I said West Ham will finish between 6th and 8th, and everyone laughed and said 7th then. So I think I'll stick with that. It will be 7th.
Which would mean I think Tottenham can finish 5th or 6th, and I think that's doable. Top four, Man City, Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, or Liverpool?
That will depend on the match between Chelsea and Leicester. Whoever wins that match makes it in the top four. Whoever doesn't drops out.
Before we say goodbye, your trivia question and the answer.
Okay, the question was, what is the biggest age gap between two managers competing in the same match? And I suggested that we recently had an example of that, which we did. In the match between Leeds and Tottenham, Bielsa was 35 years and 327 days older than Mason. So the gap between them was older than actually Mason is. But that wasn't the biggest gap. The biggest gap was actually between Bobby Robson and Chris Coleman in a match between Newcastle and Fulham. And Bobby Robson was 37 years and 112 days older than Chris Coleman. 37 years. 37 and a third years older than the other manager. That's amazing.
Fantastic. All right, we will be back very soon with more Hitting the Bar. In the meantime, I'm Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
And that was Hitting the Bar, the football podcast.